What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I am super excited to welcome Jeffrey Pachtman. Is it Pachtman? Am I saying your last name right?
Yeah, you actually got it, man. Nice work.
Nice. Hey, man, I was a journalism major originally in college, so I pride myself on piecing the letters together appropriately.
Very impressive. Very impressive.
Thanks for joining me, man. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Of course, man. Yeah, this is that awkward moment where we act like we weren't just talking 5 minutes ago.
That's right.
I'm very familiar with that. I'm doing great, man. It's been quite the awesome 2021 so far. I'm just loving coaching. I'm loving being in the health and fitness space, and I'm just really excited. Like 2021 feels like a good positive vibe for me, and I know it is for you as well. Seems like so far from the content I've been seeing from you, you're in like a good creative space. So I think we're both in good places to help a lot of people this year.
Agreed. Let's talk about that actually, because not many people are going to look back on 2020 with like a lot of cheery vibes. You know what I mean? How was 2020 for you?
Oh man, oof. Where should I start? So 2020, it started. I actually got back into coaching 2020. So 2019, I took a break from coaching. I wasn't sure if I don't know what, but something was calling me somewhere else. So I actually was a cable guy in 2019.
Okay.
Cable guy. I was that guy. And the money was really good, which is why I did it. Which, if you're a coach and you're in the health and fitness space and you're in it for the money, you're probably in the wrong business, because it's just not like this huge money making endeavor unless you're really good, or you really solidified your spot at a good gym or good facility, or you have a ton of online coaching clients, right? So I needed to make some money, so I became a cable guy. I took a break from coaching all my clients. I told them, I let them know what was going on, and I was in a relationship, and the relationship ended the end of 2019. I quit my job. I quit my relationship. I was working as a house manager for a recovery, for a treatment center. I was working as a house manager. So I was living inside of a house and working with guys who were just getting off the streets, who were just coming out of jail, who were addicted to drugs, and they were looking to get into treatment. So I was working inside of this, basically a halfway house, and I left that job. I left my cable job. I got out of my relationship, and I set some healthy boundaries with some toxic situations that were happening. So 2020 started out like completely fresh, and I had to find a new place to live. I was single. I didn't have a job. Just the whole climate of 2020 was like this fresh start, like new year, new me. It was like that was really the case. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? And then I started coaching again. I was like, you know what? I might as well start coaching again, because people were asking me questions about health and fitness, and I wasn't posting any content about health and fitness in 2019. And I started getting drawn back to it, like I had let myself kind of go. I was living the cable guy life and the relationship kind of life, and just eating out a lot and eating on the go a lot, eating a lot of gas station food, and just not being healthy. So 2020, I decided to take my own health into my own hands, and I kind of documented the process. And what ended up happening is I got into better shape. I lost some weight. I started lifting again, and then everything got shut down, and the pandemic happened, and I figured, hey, this is a great time for me to really dive in on doing things the right way with my online coaching business, because I knew I needed to start a podcast. I really wanted to start one, and I've always wanted to start one because I have all this audio equipment, because I used to make music. So I have all this audio equipment that's like really nice, and I'm not using it for anything. I spent all this money on it. I love to talk. I love to shoot the shit. So that's a plus. And I'm really passionate about health and fitness and nutrition and strength training. And I love talking about it. So for me, it's like a win-win. Like, why not start a podcast? It's the easiest form of content for me to create. And I also built my website. I also reposted on Instagram. I started making content again. I started up my YouTube channel again. I started doing all the things that I knew I needed to do again, right? Even got on TikTok and did some dances for y'all.
There you go.
And yeah. And so I started really, really enjoying the process. Through that journey, I met so many other coaches on Instagram who are doing the same thing and who were like around in the same place. Like either they were brand new to coaching or they were coming back into coaching, or they were experienced with coaching, but they had a smaller online following and they were trying to build their online businesses because of COVID, right? So we were all trying to figure out how to do that effectively. And so I picked a lot of people's brains and I learned a lot. And I also had so much downtime to focus on my own health and fitness and to focus on getting stronger, to focus on reading books, listening to other podcasts, consuming other good content. And so 2020 was like a really, really, a really big growth year for me. And uh, luckily, nobody that was close to me was like really affected by the pandemic too much. You know, we locked down here in Oregon pretty effectively, and I feel like the state of Oregon handled that well. And I got this job offer to go to Alaska to go fishing, and I was like, I needed some money at the time. You know, online coaching at the time was I wasn't making a ton of money. I had like a handful of clients, but nothing, no significant amount of money. A lot of them had been with me for a while, so I wasn't charging them what my rates are now. So I told them all, hey, I'm gonna be in Alaska for about a month. Here's your guys' programs, and here is like if you need anything from me, like here's my email, and like I'll be able to have service sometimes. And but this is gonna be a month where I'm not gonna be that available because I'm gonna be on a boat in Alaska fishing, and um,
Like Deadliest Catch style.
kind of it was definitely dangerous. You know what I mean? It was definitely like crazy amounts of hard work and I'd love to say that I thrived and I loved it, right? Like everyone's like, that's so cool that you went out there. I'm like, it really wasn't. Like I was covered in fucking fish pus and hating life like most of the time. And you know what? I learned that that's just not my thing. And that's not what I want to do with my life. You know, even if the money was good or if I really did enjoy it, you know, it's for me, it just wasn't my thing. So I came back and I was like more charged up than ever to get back into coaching and to create content. And so all my clients had actually done really well while I was out in Alaska. Like they because I told them I was like, when I come back, I don't want to see that you guys slacked off. Like I want to see some good numbers on your lifts. Like I want to see all that. Like I want you guys to send me videos. Like I want to come back to a full inbox of like good positive things and that you guys have been growing through this last month. So came back, a lot of my clients really were thriving and like we dove in and that's pretty much how I ended 2020 was just coming back from Alaska with a vengeance to to get this thing going again. And now I'm like this new year has been so incredibly good to me and it's just been a blessing. So that was my 2020, man. And I'm still single. I'm not in a relationship and I'm just thriving in that as well. Like I'm just enjoying this time, uh, kind of dating myself right now and kind of figuring out like what do I want in somebody and what do I want out of life. And then I also got this job at a powerlifting gym here in Bend, Oregon, and so I've really been enjoying that. Just kind of learning the ins and outs of powerlifting because it's a totally different ball game than the way I'm used to lifting. So yeah, I talked your ear off for about what 10 minutes. So
I love
yeah,
it
that's pretty
though.
much how 2020 went.
I love it though, because like it's a good I don't know if perspective's the right word, but it's a good it's just nice to hear that despite the challenges, because 2020 challenged everybody, right? There's no getting around it. Everybody had different challenges. Um, that you can look back on it as positive, just growth. That's how I have tried to look at 2020 as well. Like, my wife and I, we had our first kid in August. We never planned
Congrats.
to or could have envisioned having a baby in a pandemic. That was
Right.
never part of the plan. But
Yeah.
like, we tried to look at the positives from it. We got to spend the first 3 months of her life all together. We couldn't leave the house, but it actually ended up being awesome because we got to spend so much time together, and it's continued now. Like, would we like to be able to go out and take her places and have her be able to see some family and friends and stuff like that? Obviously, but
Hmm.
I feel like there are positives to take from it, hopefully for most people. And I love hearing that you're able to focus on those. That's great.
Yeah. I mean, looking back on the year, it's like I'll never write off an entire year as like that was like the worst year of my life or whatever, because ultimately, if I'm not at least getting something positive out of an entire year, then that's on me, right? Because life is going to happen, right? It's like life on life's terms is going to happen. You're going to have shitty stuff that happens regardless. But how you deal with it and then how you feel the stuff that you can change, because there's stuff that we can't change obviously, but then there's that portion of things that we can change. And that's like that nature versus nurture, right? It's like nature being the stuff that is out of my control and nurture being the stuff that I can control, right? It's the same thing with weight loss. Nature is things like my genetics, my propensity to, you know, not get good sleep at night, or my propensity to have a high tolerance to caffeine, right? Like some of that stuff is genetic, right? And then the nurture side of it maybe is like, maybe I need to control my caffeine input, right? Like maybe I need to figure out different ways to, not overdo it with the caffeine and make sure that, I don't look at screens, 2 hours before bed, or that I'm not constantly stimulated and having coffee around 2 p.m., which affects my sleep, right? So there's that nurture side and there's that nature side. The balance is always like, it's always a little bit more, for me, it's always a little bit more nurture than it is nature, right? Like we can only blame life and our genetics so much before we're like taking responsibility for our own well-being.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. So tell me about, we talked about the last year, but like what got you into maybe not even coaching, but just like fitness in general, and implementing that into, you know, making the right choices, being consistent with exercise, and making healthy choices with your diet and stuff like that. Like, what got you into that initially?
Sure, yeah. I grew up in like, I'll say, a chronic dieting household. Um, my mom was always on Weight Watchers and she was always trying to watch her weight. And my dad was like somebody who was very conscious of that. And he would openly talk about like, oh man, I need to lose weight, or oh man, like I need to get back into the gym, or oh like, yeah, like, always active. We always played like tennis as a family. We always played basketball. Like I was always active as a kid. And like I was a terrible picky eater as a kid. And I feel like that affected me because by the time I hit high school, like without going too far into my story, because I'll end up rambling and this podcast won't even be about health and fitness anymore. Um, I was like a very kind of troubled youth, like I got into drugs and alcohol at a young age, and the way that affected my mindset and my growth was very impactful, right? Like I struggled with that until I was 22. And so I never cared about like what I put in my body or exercise or any of that. Like a lot of that was just lost in the sauce because all I cared about was how I ways and means to get more, and ways and means to like numb my feelings and basically not deal with any problems that I had or emotions that I had. So when I hit 22, I kind of had this big epiphany, and things kind of really, really fell together for me. You could say I hit a bottom, or you could say that I hit like a wall, or you could say that I hit my breaking point, whatever you want to call it. 22 years old, I cleaned up my act, and I I got completely sober, and I decided to get new friends. I decided to stop hurting people who cared about me and who loved me, and I decided to care about my health and fitness. And it wasn't like an all in one process. I wasn't like, I'm going to get sober and then I'm going to work on clean eating and then I'm going to go to the gym. It was like I started going to the gym because that's just what people around me were doing who were sober, because I hung out with other sober people, and other people around me were going to the gym. So I was like, well, I guess I'm going to the gym too then.
The
And
power of who you surround yourself with, right?
exactly. So a lot of these guys were like, they were pounding in the protein, they were going to the gym, and they were, I was asking them tips like, what should I be doing when I go to the gym? Like what machines should I hit? Like how do I bench press? Like how do I do this? How do I do that? And some of these guys were like straight out of prison, so a lot of them were big and they were benching a lot, and they kind of, some of them took me under their wing and showed me like the basics and showed me how it's done. And a lot of the information they gave me was not good information, but it was like a lot of these guys who come out of prison, like they eat whatever they can to get as big as they possibly can, because
Mm,
that is a priority while you're in there. You're not really caring too much about, you don't really have too much control over the nutrients that you put in your body, right? So that became a part of my story where I kind of learned these bro science, but it was like prison bro science. So it's like a whole nother layer on top of bro science,
yeah.
because the kind of stuff that I was eating was like a lot of ramen, a lot of like, they make these things called spreads. And so a spread is a tortilla, and you fill it with ramen noodles with the packets. And
Okay.
sometimes like you'll chop up like a summer sausage, or like those really shitty, like low quality sausages, and you put that in the burrito. So it's literally carbs on carbs, tons of sodium, tons of fat from the summer sausage, and like just terrible, right? Just like you feel like shit after eating this, but it'll get you it'll get you enough carbs to where you can lift heavy, and you can have that energy for the gym. So
Yeah.
that's what I thought I needed to eat. That's the kind of stuff that they had me eating, and lots of cans of tuna, and nothing wrong with that. And a lot of unnecessary like bro sciencey tips. So I went from there, and I always worked in restaurants, right? So I always got my food for free. So I would cook meals there, and I'd play around with different foods. And then like I got into nutrition, man, and I'm not sure how it happened, but I started to just like dive into YouTube, and I started to look at like, okay, this bodybuilder's full day of eating. Okay, this like health conscious person's full day of eating. And I was like, how can I kind of like take both of those, because I want to have a nice physique, and I also want to take care of my health, and like nurture my body, right? So there's got to be some balance, right? Like it can't just be all sugar-free maple syrup, French toast, pancakes. There's got to be some nutrients involved, right? Like it's got to have something other than just protein. And so then I started going to school for, I thought I wanted to become a dietitian. And then so I took some nutrition courses at the college, that local here, community college, and I loved it. Like they one of the classes that I was in, she brought in like local like personal trainers to come talk to us. And then she also brought in registered dietitians. She brought in all kinds of health and fitness professionals in the exercise science field to kind of push us to be like, look, you don't just have to be a personal trainer. You can also be a PA. You can also be a physical therapist assistant, or you can be a physical therapist, or you can do this and that. And so there's a lot you can do after you get your degree in exercise science. So I ended up getting my associates, and then I ended up getting pulled back into the restaurant industry because just just got a good job offer, and I always had a passion for cooking. So that kind of led me to traveling around and doing this. And long story short, I got burnt out. I was working a lot of hours in the restaurant, and I gave up on school, and I stopped pursuing my education, and I stopped really taking care of my body and my health, and I didn't feel good. My energy was not good. I was gaining weight. I was overweight, and my body did not like that. My bones and joints were hurting, and I that led me to, kind of get back into it. And I always fell in and out of it. I always would do these extreme diets and extreme things to lose the weight, and I wouldn't be able to sustain it, right? I would always kind of lose a lot of strength. And so progressively over time, like I started to learn about the sustainable consistency practices that we talk about as like evidence-based coaches and what the science actually says. And, so I started to find some good coaches online, kind of like dive into the science and really look at like what does real sustainability look like? Because I'm not doing that. I'm not doing this thing right. Because I mean, I could tell you I've tried every diet under the sun just to like use my own body as like an experiment. And so I'd say like I've been my own biggest science experiment my entire life, from drugs and alcohol to food to diets that I've tried to different exercises to crazy workouts to all kinds of stuff. And I'm at this point now where I've reached this extreme point of balance and just chill out, Jeff. You don't have to have this like all in addictive mindset to everything.
Yeah.
So I'm a very all or nothing person. So for me, um, this has been really good to just learn how to do things moderately and take a balanced approach. So
Well,
that would be the gist of how I got into it.
yeah, that's so important. What you ended with there about just like being able to have a mindset of moderation, I guess, because it seems like what people want is this is a healthy food, this is an unhealthy food. If you want to lose weight, you can eat this, but you cannot eat this, because I think it makes it black and white, and it makes it
Mhm.
like, oh, then I'll go all in this one direction, and I won't touch anything that's over here. And I can relate to a lot of what you said with just like, trying every plan under the sun and giving it a shot and thinking like maybe this is the one that's magic that will like
Yeah.
I'll wake up shredded tomorrow, or whatever you're looking
Mhm.
for.
Yep.
And I think I think going through that to try, I mean, trying a lot, just trying is important, and I think it's really helpful because you get that hands-on knowledge. Um, but it also, I think it helps you understand that like no matter what your goal is, if you want to lose weight, if you want to get stronger, you want to build muscle, um, it's an investment that you're making in yourself. It's not, hey, do this for 3 months and then like you'll make this amount of progress and you'll hang on to it for the rest of your life and you're going to be happy every day and everything's going to be great. Like it's a full-time investment, and I think it's important to have more people preaching that
Mhm.
out there, on the various platforms, on podcasts like this, just explaining like, it is, you can go through a process where you lose a certain amount of weight. If you want to lose 30 pounds, you can lose 30 pounds. Um, but unless you do it in a way that involves that moderation and that consistency that you mentioned, um, you're probably going to end up in a place where you're trying to lose 30 pounds again because you didn't do it in a way
Mhm.
that fits your lifestyle and is something that you can sustain.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, they know how to lose weight, right? But there's no aftercare plan for that weight loss.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no exit strategy. And that is the most important thing. It's like, how are you going to transition out of your deficit to where you're not eating 1,200 calories for the entire year, right? It's like, or whatever your final deficit calories are.
Can I stop you right there? Why is 1,200 calories a thing? Like, why do I keep seeing that so many places? Is it just
I
because
have
like
no.
you'll obviously lose weight if you eat 1,200 calories? I don't get it.
I want to say it came from some app that people were using, but honestly, I'm in like a lot of these Facebook groups that are really like kind of toxic diet culture-y,
Hmm.
because I just want to see like what are people talking about, and how can I help? And a lot of times I'll come in with like the science, or I'll come in with like what I know to be true as a coach, which, seems like is always changing. But I'll come in with like my 2 cents, which is really like my opinion, which is also backed by science. And it seems like people don't want to hear it. They want to hear that you need 1,200 calories, and you need to be doing cardio all the time, and you need to be, you need to eat this specific way. You need to cut carbs. You need to do fasting. You need to do water fasting. You need to do intermittent fasting. You need to do dry fasting. Like whatever kind of fasting people can do, they'll do it. And it's just like, man, I've done all that. Like what they don't realize is that like I've been them.
Yeah.
Like I am them. I'm just them maybe 10 years down the road once they find out all that shit doesn't work. So that's what they don't understand is like, yo, I've been in your shoes, and the game that I'm trying to give you right now is the solution to stop this yo-yo cycle, and to stop, like somebody said it the other day, they're like, get off the hamster wheel. Like you've been on this hamster wheel for how many years now, just going nowhere. And that was me. And I wish somebody would have taken me by the collar and shook me and been like, dude, you're in for a world of problems with your relationship with food if you don't stop.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. I've been trying to, part of the message I've been trying to put out there recently, um, has been like asking the question of why we're making dieting almost seem like it's a race,
Mm-hmm.
because if you want to lose weight, you want to lose 20, 30 pounds, who are you racing against? Why do you need to get there in 2 months or 3 months? Why can't it take 9 or 10 months and then live
You'll
that?
enjoy it.
Yeah, live that whole, go through that whole process and maintain it long term. It's a hard, and I know you've mentioned, mindset is a big thing, for you and with coaching and the people that you work with. Um, like how do we break? I don't know how we break through that mindset other than continuing to have the repetition of explaining, why this is going to be beneficial for you long term.
Yeah, I think if you're not somebody who's interested in literally saying the same thing over and over in about a thousand different ways, then this probably isn't the right career for you.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair
Because that's
statement.
what we do, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
we preach the same thing, right? Like sustainable calorie deficit, but not too much of a deficit, but enough of a deficit. You're
Mhm.
not tracking licks, bites, and tastes. You're eating whatever you want on the weekend. You don't need cheat days. You if you're calling it a cheat day, you're already losing.
Yeah.
So it's like all this stuff that we used to do, right? It's like I used to go to like IHOP and do these like huge cheat days, like huge. And it was like a race, like with me and a couple of buddies who went to the gym. It was like a race to see how much calories we could put down, because it would keep your body confused, Con, con- I swear to God, man.
All the
I know you
body
heard
can,
it
yeah.
too. I
The
know you
confusion
heard it
stuff,
too.
the confusion stuff. I believed it back then, but now I'm like, what the hell was I doing? Like,
Yeah.
why did I think that was real?
The muscle confusion, right?
Yeah.
Like the muscle confusion, the calorie confusion, like keep your body guessing. It's
Yeah.
like it's like okay, some of that is true, right? Like metabolic adaptation is a real thing,
Yeah.
but like if you're eating 10,000 calories on a Saturday, and you're over your calories as a weekly total, now like you're in a surplus. You're not going to be shredded. You're not going to lose body fat. You know, you can blow out your whole calorie deficit very easily on a Saturday afternoon. And I did that for years. And
Mhm.
I was like, why aren't I getting shredded, bro? I'm confusing the hell out of my body.
I can relate, man. Like, back when, in college, like when I knew nothing about this stuff. I knew where I wanted to be, but I didn't know how the hell to get there. And like, when I was in college was 2005 to 2009. So like we're talking well before there's a lot of readily available information on the internet for you to actually learn the right way to do things. And
Mhm.
like I had some of those people that wanted to take me under their wing and show me the right thing to do, but I didn't have the patience to do it.
Yeah.
And I would want to build muscle, but I would eat only chicken and salad because I thought that was the way to do it,
Yeah.
and just completely ignored calories. And then when I found out you needed calories, I went so far on the other end of the spectrum that like I shit you not, like the person at Taco Bell and the drive-through at like 11 p.m. knew my car and knew my order to the point that I didn't have to. I would come up to the thing and they'd be like, "Yeah, we got you," and then I would just pick
I
up the
took a
food.
large Baja Blast.
Yeah,
Remember
give me
those?
all the calories. Give me all the
Yeah.
calories.
Yeah.
But um,
5 chalupas and a Baja Blast, please.
you're not far off.
I'll be back in an hour.
You're not far off. That and Chipotle, man. I was just crushing
Oh,
every
Chipotle
chance
is
I
great.
got.
Chipotle is great. I still go to Chipotle, but if I'm in a deficit, Chipotle is not my friend. It's like anything you get on that menu is like gonna be 1,000 calories. It's just, I
Yeah.
don't know. All these people that eat Chipotle all the time, I'm like, yeah, I mean, how accurate are those calories on my Fitness Pal? You know, it's like the one kid that's brand new, he gives you like a scoop and a half of rice because it's like he wants to hook you up. And then like the guy who's been there for 8 years, he's like brushing off the top of the scoop. He ain't hooking it up.
You're so
So
right. Like you can walk into Chipotle, and if you go to the same one regularly enough, like I'll walk in and I'll see the lineup behind the, serving station, and I'll know if I'm getting a bad scoop of rice that day because of whoever's there. That's
yeah.
that's one of the worst things is you walk down that line and then you're like, are they going to give me the scoop that I'm asking for? And if they don't, you have to ask for a second scoop, and then there's this weird tension that
Yeah.
builds. It's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a
Yeah. Yeah.
strange dynamic.
Nah, you don't want the tension with the scoop. Nah, you don't want that.
um, well, okay, so we talked, a decent amount about mindset, and I'm just curious, like with people that you work with, are there, and maybe we've already touched on this a little bit, but are there common situations or struggles that you see people running into, in terms of, I want to make this amount of progress, what's preventing me from getting there?
Yeah. I mean, part of being a coach is always resetting expectations. We want to be we want to set our clients up for success, and from somebody who comes from a very very like diet focused lifestyle, they have been taught by these fitness magazines, by blog articles that are clickbaity. Like I was telling somebody this in a podcast the other day, clickbait has been around for a very, very, very long time. Like people will say anything to get you to open that YouTube video,
Yeah.
open that article, or before that, it was open up that magazine, right? Like,
Yeah.
what did the front of that magazine say? It said, lose 20 pounds in 20 days, right? So, subconsciously, these people who are like buying these magazines, or maybe they're not even buying these magazines, but maybe they're watching like Dr. Oz and they're watching Oprah and they're watching all these daytime TV shows, and they're consuming this toxic diet culture without even realizing they're consuming it, right? So maybe they know in the back of their heads that like the scale is not the most important thing when it comes to weight loss, or fat loss, I should say, not weight loss. So those are two different things.
Hmm.
So that's one of the first conversations I have is like fat loss versus weight loss. I said, you joined a fat loss coaching program, not a weight loss coaching program. I have a couple clients that are in muscle building phases, but most of the people I work with are trying to cut down body fat. So, and they're trying to improve their relationship with food. So for me to do that, I have to change that mentality to shift it from weight loss to fat loss, because those are two different things. And when you're strength training and you're new to strength training, or you're coming back to it and you're still kind of a beginner, and you're looking to increase your weight, or you're looking to increase your reps, or you're introducing progressive overload in some fashion, you're going to be building some muscle. As long as we're fueling your body correctly, you're lifting with good form, and you have good training, and you have a good program, and you're actually following it consistently, you're going to be building some muscle. And people will say muscle weighs more than fat. Muscle is more dense than fat.
Right.
So when you step on the scale, you're going to see very minimal changes in the scale, aside from that first, maybe 5 pounds of water weight loss when somebody joins a new program. So they might lose 5 pounds in a week, and they get all pumped up. Yeah, this guy's a really good coach. I lost 5 pounds in my first week. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm not some sort of magic sorcerer. Okay. You lost 5 pounds of water weight because you weren't actually in a calorie deficit. So now that you're in a calorie deficit, your body is responding by pushing out some water weight. Now that may come back on. That 5 pounds is actually what's probably going to keep fluctuating and getting you frustrated the entire time we're working together, right? But I have to change that mentality, right? And so that is a process. And so I have, I'll record videos, I'll record voice messages of me talking, and I'll really talk to that person individually, right? And I'll really try and get them to understand. And I'll even have some clients literally write on a post-it note and put it above where they weigh themselves that says, "It's just water."
Yeah.
And that actually works for a couple clients of mine. They were like, "You got in my head." And every time I looked at that stupid post-it note, I heard it in your voice saying, "It's just water. Calm down. It's just water. Take a breather. It'll come back." Right? It's just water. Don't get excited if the scale goes down. It's just water. Don't get excited if it goes up. We're looking at week to week and mostly month to month changes, not day to day. So a lot of people aren't even ready to hop on a scale. And I had to realize that as a coach, is that some people have they attach so much emotion to that scale that they're not even ready to jump on that scale. And so sometimes the first 4 weeks of us working together, I'm like, I don't even want you stepping on the scale. I want you to put that shit in your closet and tell your husband that that is not allowed to come out of the closet. And a lot of times, they're like, "Thank you so much." And then we work on their relationship with the scale around, like, maybe 2 months into the program. And now we're like, "Okay, I want you to weigh yourself, once a week. Okay, I want you to weigh yourself every day. Okay, and I'll change it up and kind of see how they do with the more frequent weighing, because as you and I know, we step on the scale every day, most likely, right? So as coaches, we want to know, we're like, am I on the right track, or am I, like, I want to look at those weekly changes and take my average weekly weigh in and compare it with week 4 to week 8. And, I want to compare, I want to make sure that I'm making progress. And I don't get emotional about the scale anymore, right? It's like, after learning from so many great coaches myself, like, I don't get emotional about the scale. Like, the scale is the least important tool that I use, but it is a tool that I use. So I still do use it, but I look more at photos, I look more at body measurements, I look mostly waist measurements, right? Because we carry that adipose tissue, and if that adipose tissue is coming down, then we know that, it's most likely body fat is decreasing. So yeah.
I like that. Yeah, I've tried to recently kind of push the whole feel of it as well. Because I 100% everything you said, like the mental struggle that I feel most people have is with the scale, because it goes up and you don't know why, and then it goes down and you get excited, but then you keep doing the same exact stuff and it goes back up. And why does it go back up? Um, and then you get to the point where you're thinking, well, this isn't working. I'm just going to quit and do keto, or do something way more extreme. But
Yeah.
I've been trying to hammer home a lot with just like, how are you feeling? Because if the scale maybe hasn't moved in 2 or 3 weeks, but like your wife tells you, hey, I could tell that, the work you're putting in is paying off. And if you're going into your training sessions and your numbers are going up, you're lifting, you added 5 pounds on your bench press from last week, you're
Mhm.
doing cardio, and you can tell that from 4 weeks ago, this same cardio session that we're doing it's easier for me to get through it. You wake up in the morning and you feel more energized and ready to take on the day because of the accumulation of good habits that you're starting to string together. Like, that's not going to show up on the scale for you. You're not going to, I can't, nobody can give you a number that says that you're feeling better, but like, you should take that more seriously and understand that while it's not maybe tangible, it's 100% progress.
Yeah, those non-scale victories, right? Like clothes are fitting better, or clothes are fitting looser, or I'm starting to wake up not feeling super exhausted anymore, right? I'm starting to like the way like my triceps coming in, like when I'm at the gym and I'm doing tricep press downs. I looked over the other day and I saw like this definition in my tricep that wasn't there before. And, my husband noticed and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, so yeah, that is a part of my check-in on a weekly basis, is like, what are some non-scale victories that you had? And sometimes it's as much as like, well, I didn't binge eat this week. Like I didn't go over my calories on Friday like I normally do. And I'm like, let's go. Like I celebrate those much more than I do like when the scale goes down.
Yeah.
I try not to hype my clients up when the scale goes down, or when the measurements go down. I try to hype up the performance based achievements and the non-scale stuff, because ultimately, like, the way you look, yeah, it's important to everybody, but the way you feel internally, your self-confidence, the way you're carrying yourself, the way that you're speaking to yourself, is something that goes very under the radar when it comes to health and fitness. Is like, how are you actually talking to yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like that's huge. That is huge. Like you have to have that relationship with yourself, to where like you can take your shirt off, look in the mirror, and not just tear down everything that you don't like about what you see. That is so, and men do it too. Like,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
people who think that it's just women who tear each other down when they look in the mirror, like, as men, we do that shit just as much. We just don't fucking talk about it because it's weak, right?
Yeah.
So, um, that's a really important thing to talk about, is like men deal with the same shit that women do. It's just a lot more like faux pas, I guess you could say. Like we don't want to bring that stuff up because it makes us look weak, right?
Oh, guys talking about insecurities is just it's a generational thing, right? Where you're not supposed to do it because the men before you didn't do it, so you don't do it, and
Mhm.
um, it just perpetuates and it keeps going. But I agree with you. I think that's important to talk about. Like, I try and share with people the insecurities I've had over the years, because I don't know, right or wrong, a lot of the times you jump into the fitness scene is because you have some type of insecurity and you want to, if an insecurity about your body, and you want to do something about it. Like, I was always a super scrawny, skinny kid, um, too small to play sports and stuff like that. So, what was the one thing that I wanted to do? Well, I wanted to correct that, and it can lead you to a place where you're doing too much and you're making the wrong decisions. But um and that goes back to the moderation piece that we talked about before. But yeah, I think it's important to talk about those and normalize it,
Mhm.
um and understand that you don't have to tear yourself apart, like you said, when you look at yourself in the mirror. There's other ways you can acknowledge that there are things that you maybe aren't happy about, but what are you happy about?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, every time you look at that mirror, look for those positive things to say about yourself, because really, like, positive affirmations, people may think, oh, it's woo woo, or that stuff doesn't work, right? It's out there, but it's actually backed by science. Like, positive affirmations are actually backed by science. So the way that you talk to yourself, you have to first act as if. And that's something that people don't want to do. They don't want to fake it. They don't want to fake it till they make it because they don't want to be fake, right? But if you look in the mirror and you don't like the way you look, sometimes saying out loud, "Hey, you look amazing. You look amazing." Like, look at how far you've came compared to where you were last year, right? So saying those things to yourself out loud in the mirror, people might think you're fucking crazy, but there's science behind it and it does work. And eventually you actually start to believe that shit. And eventually it actually is true. Like what you're saying is actually true. You just don't believe it deep down in your
That's
self-conscious
it.
and you're
Yeah.
self-conscious about it. What you're saying is actually true. So if you're not talking to your best friend the way that you're talking to yourself, then what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you treating yourself the way that you would treat an enemy or the way that you would treat somebody you don't like, right? Like, why are you treating yourself that way? We can be our own worst enemies, man. And so a lot of this health and fitness journey and a lot of this being a coach thing is like, it's figuring out how to tap into that stuff too, because like I can give you macros, I can give you a good training program, I can teach you how to do a dumbbell deadlift, right? But like I can't teach you how to be kind to yourself and to be patient with yourself. That has to come from you.
Yeah. I love that. Um, this is a tangent, but so I have watched your TikToks, all right? And I've noticed the wall that's behind you and what is on the wall that's behind you.
This
And
wall here.
tell me, am I looking at basmati rice bags behind
You're
you?
looking.
Can you confirm that?
Thank you for saying that. Yes, these are basmati rice bags.
Hey man, I have been very vocal over the years about my love for basmati rice. I've put
It's the hands down best rice.
That's what I'm saying, man. And I give
Hands down.
jasmine rice is a solid second in my book,
It's
but
okay.
like
Yeah.
basmati rice, that's where it's at.
It's a superior grain. It is a superior grain.
It is. It is. I love that, man. That was one of the first things I noticed when I followed you on TikTok and I started watching your videos. I was like,
You're like, what is this?
does he eat
It's
as much basmati rice as I do?
it's a pattern interrupt, right? So like people will ask me that. People will like specifically DM me about these basmati rice bags on my wall. Like first of all, I just like the way they look. And second of all, like this is also a statement because this is coming from a guy who was like, I did vegan keto for like, I want to say like 6 to 9 months of my life. And so I didn't eat rice. I was afraid to eat rice. I was afraid to eat potatoes. I was afraid to do all that stuff because I thought I was insulin resistant. It was gonna kick me out of ketosis and I was just gonna blow up like a balloon, right? Like that's what I thought. That's what people in the fitness industry who are pushing that modern day bro science, because that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
It's modern day bro science.
Because they probably have a discount code for something and
They're trying to
pushing it
push
down your
something.
throat. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's modern day bro science that people are pushing down my throat, and I'm believing it because they're some of the smartest marketers on the planet. They're some of the slickest talking pimps trying to pimp you out of your money. And I believe every word of it. And so that's the clients that come to me. I'm like, come on. I got a big ass hug for you, and I'm gonna give you some basmati rice, and we're gonna get these gains. Like I got a hug for you. Like let's go. You can eat rice, you can eat potatoes, you can eat fruit, and you can eat a lot of it. You can eat a lot of it and still make progress. You're still gonna lose body fat. And we're gonna teach you how to do this thing sustainably to where like you don't have to ever be afraid of eating rice again. You don't ever have to deny yourself the most amazing grain in the world that is basmati rice.
I love it. I love it. I had this one period of time, man, where I thought no carbs and HIIT were the solution. I mean, we
Yeah.
could go on for hours about probably all the stuff that we've done that was just rooted in absolute nonsense. But I will say, so obviously we're on the same page about the basmati rice.
Yeah.
I had maybe there's the most rough moment for me in 2020 was when the pandemic started hitting, right, and stuff
Everyone
started
bought up
shutting
all the
down,
rice.
Costco for like 2 months did not have the basmati rice. Now, the planner that I am,
I'm sorry, bro.
I
I'm
always have
sorry.
2 bags of that stuff in my basement, right? We always have it on reserve. So I
Mhm.
never ran out, but whew,
It's close.
we got close. And then I was thinking
Sta-
like I'm gonna have to buy the inferior grains. And
Right. Jasmine. Yeah.
I didn't know how do you
I'm
adjust
sorry.
to
I'm
that?
sorry you had to deal with that kind of scare, man. That must have been rough.
Man, I appreciate that. Thank you.
2020 must have been tough.
that's that's the roughest story I have from the pandemic.
I almost
Fortunately,
ran out. I almost ran out of basmati rice. That's
yeah,
my 2020. All right.
yeah, I know.
Almost ran out.
I'll make people shed a tear when they hear my story. It's rough. It's rough.
Oh God. People who actually had like terrible 2020s gonna be like, fuck you guys. But that's funny. Like you have to laugh at that. That's
Yeah.
funny.
No, certainly don't want to make light because I know people did have a rough year
For
overall.
sure.
But
For sure. And heart
um,
goes out. My heart goes out to anybody that was affected by this whole thing because it's very real. It's very real. And people are starting to realize that. So I can't
yeah,
believe it took this long, but it is very real, man. So
yeah. I hope here as we make our way into spring and summer, and now with what we know about everything that happened, we can start to turn the corner. I mean, I think it seems like we're starting to turn the corner here, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel. But
yeah,
uh,
yeah. I'm just glad gyms are opening back up and um yeah, like that's such a crucial part of mental health for a lot of people, and a lot of people just don't have the means to be able to get equipment at home and to, let's face it, man, not everybody's cut out for body weight home workouts. Like that's just not reality for a lot of
yeah.
people. Not everybody can have a badass garage gym like you have, man. I see what you got going on over there. I'm jealous.
Man, I'm thankful that like when we bought a house, one of the priorities we made was building out a home gym. So like we had most of that stuff here well before the pandemic came along. And then it was just a crime what happened with the prices of
Oh yeah.
equipment. Like the adjustable dumbbells I have that I got for maybe $250 were going on Amazon for close to 1,000. Like the
Like
price gouging,
900. Yeah.
yeah, the price gouging that happened for people who just wanted to try and stay somewhat healthy during this whole thing was awful.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was just I mean, I'll go into it and say that I paid way too much money for the bar and bumper plates that I got, and like I'm like, damn, I that was a lot. It was a lot that I spent, but it's all good because I got it now, and I was able to still train during all this. So for me, it was worth it. For
yeah,
other people, who knows if they'll actually use the stuff that they buy.
yeah, yeah. It's worth it if you continue to use it because you have it for a lifetime.
Hmm.
Um, Well, before we wrap up, man, what I like to ask is just like, so your specialty is fat loss with people that you work
Hmm.
with, and you made that clear. We're not talking weight loss necessarily, but fat loss. Um, so do you have any just, practical and actionable tips that people can, if they're listening to this episode, take and they say, okay, I do want to, start my own fat loss journey, but maybe I'm not sure where or how to get started. What would you recommend are the first, couple or few steps that people can take that are easy to implement and will
Hmm.
truly set you off on, at least to start off on the right path?
Yeah. So it doesn't really take a whole lot, right? Like we complicate this stuff because it's like most people complicate it. Really, all you need is a calorie deficit. Like that's bottom line. That's all you need to lose body fat, right? But in order to make sure you don't lose muscle, you want to make sure you're not in too much of a calorie deficit. So, what I would say if you were brand new to this whole thing is track calories for a little while. Like grab MyFitnessPal. It's a free app. Grab MyFitnessPal, grab a food scale off Amazon for $10 and start tracking your food. Now, don't go off of the calorie recommendations that MyFitnessPal gives you, but take your goal body weight, multiply it by 12. That's a good starting point. Go from there. Do it for 4 weeks straight. And if you don't lose any weight and you're not seeing any changes on the scale or in your waist measurements, then you need to adjust those calories or figure out maybe if you were miscalculating those calories, overestimating or underestimating. Um, from there, like get into some strength training, like do some really basic strength training. If you have equipment, cool, use it. If you don't, get on a progression of just doing like 10 push-ups. Like every time you walk through a doorway, do 10 push-ups. Every time you go for a walk with your dog, like, when you come back into the house, do 10 push-ups. Like just make it something simple and easy for you to remember to do. And you don't have to go to a gym. You don't have to, get into powerlifting. You don't have to do all this crazy stuff. Like somebody was in my DMs the other day and they were like, I have 100 pounds to lose. I have no idea where to start. And I was like, oh, you got 100 pounds to lose. And he was a heavy guy. And I said, just start with walking. Just start with walking. You don't even have to lift weights. You don't even have to do body weight exercises, right? Just start walking. And I was like, can you walk for 10 minutes a day? Because at how heavy this guy was, like 10 minutes a day of walking for him is like an hour of walking a day for us. So I was like, just start with walking 10 minutes a day. And he's like, I can do that. That's it. I was like, yeah, just start with that. Do that for 4 weeks straight. Don't take any days off. And he's like, okay. And I was like, let me know when you've done that. And then he's going to reach back out to me about 4 weeks. And then we're going to increase it to 15 minutes a day. And that's it. I'm going to increase it 5 minutes every time he comes back to me after 4 weeks. And I guarantee you, if he is being mindful of how much food he's eating, he's going to start losing weight. And he's with just the most minimal effort. In the very beginning, you can just make the smallest changes, like switch out, sugary soda for sparkling water, like LaCroix and Spindrift and stuff like that. Spindrift's my favorite if you haven't had that. Switch it out for sparkling waters, man. Like switch it if you want to have a Diet Coke every now and then. Like just switch out those sugary sodas for something else or switch it out for water. And you're going to start seeing changes just based on that one small change that you make. So don't complicate it. Take it like one thing at a time. So the first 4 weeks is you like maybe just walking and tracking your calories. Cool. That's all you need to do. Maybe the second month you do walking, tracking your calories and cutting out soda, right? The third month you do walking, tracking your calories, cut out soda and like strength training twice a week, right? Then the fourth month you add in hitting your protein on top of that, right? Maybe you do that for a couple months. And then by month 6, by month 7, like you're dialed in, you got a routine and you're killing it. Like you're going to start seeing changes in the mirror. You're going to start seeing changes in your attitude. And now you're in this shit for life because you eased your way into it. You didn't just jump into this really intense, crazy program. Like you ease your way into it, kind of tricked yourself into doing something really easy and simple and kind of taking your time and not worrying about like getting all the results all at once. So that would be my breakdown of how I would get into this thing if I was like coaching myself from like ground zero.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. The moderation, right? I feel like we've come back to that word moderation and also consistency quite a bit, but um, yeah, I love that. Well, let everybody know where they can find you and follow along to stay in touch with what you got going on.
Yeah, so it's at Jeffrey Pachtman on Instagram, Chef Jeffrey's Kitchen on YouTube. I had a cooking channel. Now it's an everything channel. And then at Jeffrey Pachtman everywhere else, TikTok, Twitter, whatever. but mostly you can find me on Instagram. So come and say what's up. And yeah, Chris, thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff, and be sure to follow him because the information is extremely good, and every so often you get a sneak peek at the basmati rice wall, and
Let's
that
go.
alone is worth it. So
Let's go.
thanks, Jeff, man. I appreciate it. We'll have to do this again sometime soon.
Most definitely, man. Peace.
All right.